First, thanks is to the students. I thought they showed out early, and had a great time getting on campus yesterday and spending some time with them. And you could feel the excitement around the game, and you could feel the excitement with our students just following this. And so appreciate them getting here early. Appreciate them filling that thing up. And another sellout. So credit to the administration. And I guess that's 6 or 7 now to almost capacity this year. And it's fun when it's just, hey, it's not a game, right? It's not, hey, we're just going to do it for this event or that event. But when you can continue to get consistent home crowds like that, it affects the energy. And fun to be in that. So for the game, I thought it was a heck of a basketball game, especially like first half. You had to love it. Just a lot of offense. And I think both teams shot 52% from the floor in the first half. And, I thought it was going to come down in the second half to who could finally generate some stops. And, we had 0 kills in that first half. We were able to get 2 or 3 in the second half, and then we got 1 early in the second half, which I thought was big. And then we hit the back-to-back threes to get it to 10. But credit to them. They kept playing as I knew they would. Dwight does a great job with them, and they play really hard. They play connected. They've got good schemes on both ends of the floor, and they kept battling. And, they cut it to 9 right there. And then Marcus hit the 3 in the corner off the press, and then PJay hit the back-to-back, 6 ball there to create a little bit of separation and close the game out. So a lot of guys, that I could go through. Obviously, JP and Marcus were JP and Marcus. And both had 20, and thought both of them had a lot of key plays. And then, Tyrese was defensive player of the game, which I thought was big. They got 61 paint touches in Spartanburg, and we knew we had to do a better job in transition D, which wasn't great in the first half, but got better in the second, post D and drive D. And I thought Tyrese gave us some physicality down there. So good to see that. Ben Vanderwall, plus 20 on the game, something like that. Just continues to affect winning, and only took 6 shots, but just makes winning plays. The block and then the verticality on the same play, and then we get possession and the crowd gets into it. Those are just winning plays, and he understands that. So, it was good to see that. I thought PJay played hard. I thought Garrett gave us some good stuff. It's nice to have Alex back, and I'm sure I'll be asked about that, but it was good to have him back. And then Carter and Bowser gave us some good minutes as well. And and Garrett, obviously, I thought it was a complete team effort.
Coach, Wofford scored on all but one of your turnovers today. But I guess when you only turn over 3 times, that's okay. But 3 turnovers, none by your guards. Can you speak to that and how it, obviously paid off today?
Well, it's just this group's been growing, and it's couldn't take care of the ball. One of our probably my worst ball security team for a lot of the year, and and then you got to hear everybody say we can't shoot, or don't shoot as well. I think we shot the ball just fine today, and shot the ball just fine in the Chattanooga game. I think it's funny when the ball starts moving more, and you space correctly and you cut correctly, and you depend on one another. You get better quality of look. And when you get better quality of look, your percentages are going to go up and your ball security is going to go up. And, when people can sit in gaps and they can raid you and they can put 2 on the ball and they can force tough ones, then, yeah, you're going to shoot bad percentages. You're going to turn the ball over. And, we knew they were going to try to, raid and rip our gaps. And, we had to do a much better job of getting the ball out than we did game 1. And, I thought our guys really trusted it today. You could tell that early. We're 1.38 on offense. It's probably our best PPP in a conference game, maybe outside of the VMI game there, where we were on fire. But, to go 1.38 where, the game in Spartanburg, I can't remember what it was. It probably was a 0.7, It was just more trust, right? It was more ball movement. It was just our pass count at halftime was one of the highest of the year so far at halftime. And I thought because of that, it's if they're going to sit in gaps and they're going to pull hard to the ball and you persistently dribble into those, right, well, that's going to create bad offense. If you get the ball out, that's going to put them in a long closeout. And so it's a major difference between how you play that to where, it's going to be advantage them or advantage us. And, we put in one little action that was similar to something we did on them last year to kind of space the floor and ran it a decent amount today. And again, still you got to be able to move it. You got to be able to space it. And, I thought our guys just did a much better job with that.
In 3 of the last 4 games, you've held teams to less than 70 points, and I think in the last game you held Samford to 13 less than their average coming in. Just talk about it. There seems to have been a little bit of an uptick defensively today. The second half, there was a stark contrast in how you defended them. Could you just talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's look, it's just like any games. I mean, you let their best players do the things that they are comfortable doing, and they're probably going to beat you, And Tripp was driving us, getting the ball in the paint, and Fowich was just making all kind of shots down there. And, we knew we had to do a better job on their best players. And, I thought the adjustments that we made for the most part, our guys did a great job on them. And, I think one of them scored 7, one of them scored 6. And, they got some really good players, specifically shooters around it that, you're going to give up something. But you got to decide, how hard are you willing to play? And, we knew we had to put a little bit more aggression into the game plan. And, I thought that was huge. I thought in the half court, I don't know exactly what we were defensively, but in the half court, we're 1.02. And we ended up being a .75 in transition defense, which is a little bit surprising considering how many threes they got in the first half. But, it's for us, it was key that the ball, like I said, 61 times in the paint game 1, we can't have that happen. And we got to halftime, and it was tied, but it was both of us were in the 20s. I think it was 23 at halftime. So, we did a much better job not letting the paint be so accessible.
From watching both games against Wofford, I think the term that comes to mind when I look at Wofford is sort of bloodied but unvowed. They're so methodical, and there's no let-up. It is hard to get them to scatter in disarray. When you beat them 15, it's why they have so many close games, because they just don't. I mean, even though you make them look bad, they don't hit retreat. They keep on playing the same way, and that makes them hard to beat.
Yeah, they're very sound. I mean, Dwight does a great job. I mean, you watch them on film, they're very sound. And, they've got tough kids. They got skilled players, right? They're smart, they play connected. I mean, there was nothing in me that felt that this, they beat our tail up there, And, we knew they were going to be excited to play. Big game, both teams take the game pretty serious. And, I know, Dwight and I we were together for 5 years, all right? We were together as we built this. The formulas are very similar, and so we know, the recipes might be a little bit different, but, at the end of the day, he's going to value this. We worked in that office over there for 5 years. We know each other well, and what he values, I value in a lot of ways. And just like our predecessors, the way these two programs were built, going back, how Mike Young built Wofford and the things that, Nico brought here, the similarities and, how we've been able to continue them. It's great teammates, right? It's guys that play hard. It's guys that buy into connection, and it's trusting one another offensively. And so, when you put, for years, right, all these Furman Wofford games, they're fun, they're intense. And, it's one of those deals where we got a lot of respect for them, and obviously I care a lot about Dwight, and we knew it was going to be a fight, just like it was, when they put it on us, in Spartanburg.
Coach, you have a thing you had for years called next play, and I think that maybe even goes to games, maybe because it was kind of interesting today. Marcus hit his first 3. I think PJay hit his first 3, and then as you mentioned, after they cut at the 9, they hit back-to-back 3s. After a really tough shooting night Wednesday. And I know maybe more for Marcus it's easier because he's been here longer, but PJay being still kind of he's an old guy now here, but still first year here. And I know early in the season you had to encourage him to keep shooting because you knew how he could shoot. But that's kind of there now, right? He gets that now, right? Just based on how they both shot today, I thought.
Yeah, because if he doesn't shoot, I'm going to take him out. Tired of hearing people say we can't shoot. Told Marcus after Sanford, I don't care if you're 1 for 7. That means you're about to go 3 for 4 for 10. There's nothing more frustrating for me when I turn on the tape and I see really good shooters not taking great shots and really trying to overcomplicate the game. I told Marcus today, if you see it better go up. If you can step into it and you can get the ball off, I need the ball off, right? PJ, same thing. those two guys are elite shooters, right? Like, I mean, I'm sitting there after practice watching Pegues shoot yesterday. I mean, he's an elite shooter, like trusted, and like I think sometimes it gets in your head. Those two guys, or really all three of them, they're like perfectionists in a lot of ways, and so they want to see it. They want to see every single one of them go in. And as a shooter, you got to have an 0 for 0 mentality, right? And really, what I've tried to do to them is almost trick it. Like, if you miss one, that means you're probably making the next one. Just shoot it. Like, let that thing fly. And I loved it. I loved, like, hey, 4 minutes to go, we're up 9. They're gonna press us. There'd be some people that say, it's not a good shot. It's a gamble I'm willing to take. If they're gonna press us, we're gonna stretch it with Mark. And if we get that 2-on-1, I want that ball up. The guy sits in the gym and shoots all the time. And I'll go down there and watch him and make 10 in a row, 12 in a row, 14 in a row. Like, pull that thing with confidence. And, I think the other night, look, that was a great atmosphere, great crowd. Obviously, heck of a ball game. It's all going to regress to the mean. And, if they had a bad shooting night, so to speak, Wednesday night, then guess what? That just meant they were going to have a go in a day. And I got all the faith in the world in those three guys as shooters. I love seeing Alex hit that one at the top of the key. Alex Williams is a great shooter, and we tried to get those 4 on the court a little bit more tonight together. It's a cluster of a lineup we haven't played a lot, but just to get 4 shooters out there the way they were tagging, and we probably didn't do it as much as I was hoping. Ben's playing so well, and he's cutting so well, and he's moving it, and he's making winning plays. But we've got some guys that are really, really good shooters, and we got some guys that are 40% guys, and we need to make sure those guys get the shots, and the rest of them need to cut. They need to move it, and they need to punch it, and they need to play at the rim, and they need to get fouled and play to their strengths. And then all of a sudden, we're not going to be the 5th best three-point shooting team in the league. We lost Mike and Slaw, and we added PJay, and we're a quote-unquote worst shooting team. Mike was 36% and Slaw was 40%. I get that. But at the same time, like, we got to get the guys that are bell ringers to be confident bell ringers. And I thought in the second half, we came in at halftime and hit those 2. Like, that's what makes us really good. And, I expect us to keep shooting with that type of confidence.
Coach, you were talking about your relationship with Dwight and sharing the 5 years together. But when you guys chat or talk or catch up after this game, not the result, but what will you talk about as far as the positives you can both take, from the atmosphere and just, upstate basketball in general, which you brought together?
Yeah, I think Dwight and I talked before the game a couple times. Just, respect for one another. We're not going to talk about the game a ton. We're going to talk about each other's families and the nature of our jobs. And, Dwight and I got together a little bit this summer, and him going through the transition of being a head coach. And not so much how he wants to play in the schematics, but like, how does it impact family? How does it impact your life balance? All of a sudden you're having to manage everything, and I think those are more of the conversations. It's, I care about Dwight. I want to see Dwight have a lot of success. It's like I told him after the game, obviously this rivalry is very competitive, but don't let it mistake my care for you. And I mean that.
Coach, you mentioned just the shooting today. It seemed like there was less of hesitation when the shots were going up. Is that just something? Is that easy to get your team to do when it comes to an actual game situation, to be that aggressive when they're shooting the basketball, especially from the perimeter?
John, I tell them every day, like, just get the ball up. It's, y'all been watching this for a while. I like a good 3 now, all right? And I love 2 in a row, and I love them in transition, and I love them when they get paint and kick out. I think it's the greatest neutralizer in the game right now. And, we've been doing this for 7 years. We've gotten the ball up pretty good, since I've gotten the job. And, it's just as the game is changing and you look at the NBA and you look down, I was watching the Pelicans and the Heat last night, and just the amount of threes and the amount of shooters out there, the space, it just makes the game really hard. And, but you got to have guys that understand, like, you go 4 of 10, you're a really good shooter, which means you're going to miss more than you're going to make. And you got to have the mentality to be able to miss them and shoot them, right? And I think that's the biggest key is, like, trust your work, right? Train for it, and then trust it. And then when you go play the game, like, make it your playground, and that's what I told Marcus. Like, Okay, so they're going to raid you. Well, shoot it. You know what I mean? Like, shoot the ball. You're 6'5". Get the ball up. If they're late on the closeout, shoot it. And if they get to your body, show it and drive it. And I think he had a few times in the Sanford game where he didn't shoot it, and now they were able to get under him, and then he dribbles, and we don't beat that guy, and now he's playing in a crowd. Whereas the baseline play today in the second half was beautiful. Like, he didn't think he can quite get the ball up. He shows it, drives baseline, foul at the rim, right? And I think him understanding Marcus Foster's not a good shooter. He's not a great shooter. He is an elite shooter. And I think that he's got to understand, like, hey, it's not about, it's like right now, if you got NVIDIA stock, you ain't selling. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you're good. That thing just went to $2 trillion. Like, you're play your strengths, right? Like, don't sit there and be like, well, man, I want to diversify and I'm going to sell some of this and I'm going to go do all this and nah, man, dude, you've got a skill that's elite, and play off of it, right? Play off of it. Make not 50-50, right? But sometimes, people get in their head and you got these guys that sit there and tell them how they get to the NBA and da-da-da-da-da, and everybody knows now. Let me tell you something. You know how you get to the NBA? You shoot the blood out of the ball and you defend your butt off and you rebound the ball. All right, and you're 6'5" and you're athletic, okay? I'm going to tell you what, you do those 3 things and nothing else, and you're getting paid. And right now, it's like, oh, man, we got to be able to do it. No. You do those 3 things elite, all right? And there are going to be a lot of people trying to get you on that roster, right? But if you don't show that you're elite at those 3 things, right, and you're trying to diversify and do all this other stuff, well, now all of a sudden, you're not playing your strengths. And like I tell our team all the time, right? And they laugh every time I say it, but birds fly, fish swim, right? The day I start seeing fish swimming or flying, I'm going to be out of here, right? You got to do what you do great. And it's the same thing on another end. We got a couple other players that, they want to prove their shooters, and, their strengths are something else, right? Play your strengths. And I'll never forget it, the great Sam Weiss, before he passed, great Furman ambassador and just an unbelievable human being, and obviously an unbelievably successful coach. I had him come speak to our first staff, and I had my notebook out and I was ready to write, the West Coast offense and Bengals and the Super Bowl, how'd you do it? What are the tricks? And he looked at me and he's like, Bob, listen, this thing's not as complicated as you think. Play to your strengths and hide your weaknesses. Okay? Well, guess what? Players, right? Kind of same deal, right? Play to your strengths and hide your weaknesses. And sometimes players, they try to go show that their weakness isn't a weakness. And in turn, they're not playing to their gifts. And I think, with Marcus, I want him getting the ball in there. With JP, I want him aggressive all night long. All right, I want him on the Autobahn. I want him flying. I want him downhill. I want him in the paint. I want him 3-level score at the rim, pull-ups, mid-range. I know he's gonna pass and I know he's gonna get guys involved. But from the jump, man, you got to be a 3-level scorer and an attacker all night long, right? PJ, get the ball in the air, right? Get the ball up. Vandy, cutter, right? Driver, make plays for others. G, make this thing work, man. Pass it, right? Bring your energy. Play to your strengths. And I think when we do that, we're really good. I think we're really good, right? Nobody's walking out here today saying, oh, they can't shoot, they don't take care of the ball, right? I don't have to hear that right now, okay? Because our guys play to their strengths. And so consequently, it looks like we go 40% from 3, and we had a 4% turnover rate. You're going to win a lot of games doing that.
You sort of spilled over into the question I was about to ask, but it seems like to me a recurring theme in that every year December's rolling around and there's some rough spots, and you tell us things. This year with PJ, it was about the baseball card, what's on the baseball card. I remember when Carter the year before was having some rough games. But it seems like to me it's more than shooting confidence. It seems to me this is the time of the year it all comes together in all areas. They get better on defense. The first time he played Wofford, I must have looked at 40 pictures of our guys going for a rebound, blocked out by Wofford, 47-34. This was, Wofford's tough on the boards, but this was a game where you played much better. And you also, I don't know if the last time you got as many loose balls as you went for, you came up with most of them. This was a really determined and efficient game.
Yeah, I mean, they still got more on the offensive glass than I would have liked, specifically in that one little stretch. They ended up being 36% on the offensive glass. We were 31, which isn't great, but not terrible, And, I just thought we played with more juice. I mean, they popped us early up there and, kind of, they were the aggressor. You know what I mean? I mean, period, point blank, in whatever fashion you want to put it in. And, I thought that's where Tyrese gave us, some good, aggression on the glass. Just looking at defensive rebound percentages right here. I mean, Huey's at 20%, right? That's what you want. You want those guys over 20. Mark's at 18, right, on the wing. I mean, that's what you want. JP's 15%, right, at the guard spot, right? And I think though when you want as many guys 20% or higher as you possibly can get to be elite. We're 64% as a team today, which isn't great. I'd rather that be in the 70s. But it's a heck of a lot better than it was in Spartanburg for sure. And, on the offensive glass, I thought we had a couple that really went. Huey, 18%. We had A-Will, 14%. Garrett was actually 12% on the offensive glass. So on the offensive glass, anything over 10 is a good number. And so we were much more active on the glass. We had a little spell there in the second half where I thought we gave up too many, and we had to get that tightened up.
Coach, you were talking about Vandy getting that block, and then he affected the next shot, and forced the miss. And then I was, zooming in with my camera trying to get your reaction, and you had a big smile on, which usually you're very stoic on the sideline, focused and everything. But what causes you, when plays like that happen, to, kind of almost, have a, separate the coach from the enjoyment, and the game was mostly in hand. But what causes that when that type of play, and from a guy who's working so hard?
Well, I mean, I think the game honors toughness. I've always felt like that, and when you have guys willing to make what I call winning plays that you can see affect the game, and you can just see how hard he's playing. Like I love grit, I love toughness, I love extra plays, extra efforts. Even his and one in the first half, where he just went right downhill on the pitch ahead and just got really good extension and got that and one. I might have fist bumped there too. Look, Vandy has had as much growth as I've seen in a player in a season, and the valley that he had to work through in the non-conference to where he's at now in areas that can't even be seen outside of here. And I'm not going to go into all the details. I mean, the appendix we all know about. You're talking about a guy in Coastal that's in the locker room before the game having to be taken out by, having to take him to the hospital to check his appendix like 30 minutes before the game. Then he gets it taken out. Then he's not shooting as well as he wants to shoot. He's not playing as much as he wants to play. And to see him stay the course, to see him keep fighting with just relentless effort, and then to see in the last 3 weeks how he's gotten involved in the leadership of the team, and how off the court he's made a very concerted effort to find ways to continue to build our connection. And those are the things that when you look at it, I just love seeing guys rewarded for perseverance and persistence and avoiding the pit of self-pity, and look, that's hard for all of us, right? I mean, you're looking at his situation, comes off the bench for a 28-win team that wins a game in the NCAA tournament. He's a big part of it. Slaw might leave. He has a really, really good summer, and you think, all right, well, I'm going to start, oh, good. Like, this is going to go great. And then it just didn't go like that. And instead of him building his case and, I'm a victim and like, oh, my gosh, look at this. And then all of a sudden you got all type of cynicism, right? Instead, you know what? Like, I'm going to be compelled to work harder, and I'm going to be compelled to do it for the program. And he sent me a text. I might have talked about this text in here once. He sent me a text after Christmas break, and he said he went home and he realized like he was playing for the wrong reasons. And he said, I need to get back to playing for one thing, and that's to get this team to a point where we can win a championship. And everything I do from this point out is going to be whatever it takes to go try to find a way to win a championship. And I think when you see that behavior manifested on the court as a coach, like, that's what it takes, and I can't change what it takes, right? I can only tell them what it takes, and then we've got to get a group willing to do it. And I think he's been you look at the last 5 games. I think this is our best clump of 5 games. Even we won 4 out of 5 here, and you can say, well, what about the 5-game winning streak? We're still playing better right now, right? Especially offensively. We're some bad luck away from winning that game in Birmingham the other night where we could be at 5 in a row. But you look at it, we're playing better. This is our best ball we've played all year. We've held 4 teams out of the last 5 in the 60s. And really, if we don't have the breakdowns that we had the other night, we could have had them in the 60s. And he's been a huge part of that. And when we've played him 26 minutes or more, we're 6-2. And one of those is counting Sanford Wednesday night. So if we close that out, which we didn't, then now you could be saying, hey, we're 7-1, and the only loss was to Liberty, who was playing unbelievable at that point in the season. And so why is that? You know what? Like, hey, I'm not saying anything I wouldn't say in front of Vandy. He knows I love him. Like, it don't always make sense. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, he sells out. Like, he sells out for the team. He sells out his body. He sells out for whatever it takes to go win a game. And look, talent gets you so far in this thing, but you get people that are obsessed with winning. Winning has to be singular, And right now in society, we're trying to put some plurality on it. That it's winning and it's NIL and it's leverage on where can I go and what's my role and like, oh, but I really want to win. Like, no, that's not how this works, right? Like, winning and preparing yourself for life and realizing how this all plays into that has to be primary. And then the resources, hey, I'm grateful for whatever you can do for me. I'm appreciative to be here. And hey, as coaches, we got to do everything we can to take care of all of our players as much as we can. I'm all for that. But at the end of the day, we can't forget this is educational. This is about developing people, right? And this is about fighting for our student athletes as much as we can. But you also have to understand you don't want to be looking back in 10 years and be like, well, man, like I got 4 years where I made that money. Did I take advantage of my educational and my maturation process as much as I could? And he's one of those guys where winning is singular, and I think you see it on the floor.
Coach, you mentioned earlier, but obviously Alex Williams did return today, and he's your third leading scorer, probably going to be a big part of this thing, down the stretch. I think, a lot of people might have looked and said, well, they're playing at Sanford Wednesday. He's got to come back, right? But that would kind of defeat the purpose of the suspension, right? I mean, that's not how it works. Right?
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. Like, that's probably what they were thinking before the Chattanooga game, too. Like, oh, this will be a 1-game suspension. Look, I think it's important in my job that I never forget that I've got a responsibility for them not to like me at 20. I need them to love me at 30. And he's going to look back on his life, and he's going to thank me for what I've asked him to go through these last 2 weeks. Because I've asked him to understand in his heart what it means to be a player here. And to be a player here is not about how many points you score and how many shots you get. All the people that wore the jersey before him, that's not how this was built. This wasn't built on going and finding a bunch of scores, right? And finding a bunch of talent that we just threw out there and just said, hey, we'll just see how this thing works. This has been sacrificial. This has been about the brotherhood. This is about building people. And there was a point where I had to tell him, like, hey, listen, I'm not concerned about your talent right now. Right now, like, I've got to impact your heart, right? Like, I've got to help you navigate this, and you've got to get to this point. You got to say, okay, this is what I want to be about. And if it's not what you want to be about, that's okay. But I think if I just say, okay, well, 1 game back, these kids are smart. They can see through that. And then now I'm serving their talent. I'm not serving their heart. And I'm not giving him the best ability to navigate something that's difficult for his growth. Our responsibility in that is we got to keep caring for him. Like we love Alex. And the reason that we're asking him to do this is because we want to see him be successful. And I thought it was a good omen today that right when he got in the game, he got that offensive rebound. Right? I've been begging him to get on the offensive glass. That's a sacrificial part of the game, right? Getting in a stance, defending, talking on defense, leading, okay? There's a lot more to this game than scoring. And today we scored what, 82, We scored 82 points. And Chattanooga, we scored 80-something, and he didn't play. And I'm trying to tell them, like, hey, the team scored 82 today. The ball movement, right? The defense, the getting out in transition. And, you know, A. Will's story is going to end up really well. He's got an unbelievable mother. He knows right from wrong. He knows that he's had to do some soul searching the last couple of weeks, you know. And I've seen him grow. These guys are kids. They're gonna make mistakes, and I gotta love them through it, and I gotta help support them. But our 2 program principles that you heard me talk about all the time is the highest of standards and the deepest of care, right? And the second we pull that standard down, then all of a sudden we're not going to be able to get the rewards of what we need to get through to help them to continue to develop. And that's why we do it. You know, I mean, to walk in the tunnel today and see Jalen Pugh back there, you know, smiling ear to ear, you know, and to see Noah Gurley back there, you know, with all his Furman stuff on, you know, the Diamond F on, right? And to see Larry Wyman after the game smiling ear to ear, and Paul Foster down there. Like, we want to win every game we play. But I want to make sure at the end of the day, like, I get to oversee a program that has to develop people, and I get a 4-year window to do it. And if I got to navigate something through him, then for my care for him, I'm going to do that. And I was really pleased by his effort today. And I think he's going to have a big impact on this team in the stretch run. And I think some of this growth is going to pay off for him in the long term. All right, Western Carolina, not a far drive, right up the mountain. They've done a great job up there with their crowd and their lights and their environments and stuff. So it's going to be a heck of a game. And if you don't have anything to do Wednesday night, make the drive up there. We'd love to have you. Y'all have a good one.